Have you ever stood in front of a problem and thought, there is absolutely no way out of this? No solution, no support, no hope. And then, somehow, when you had almost given up, a door opened from a direction you never expected. Was it luck? Or was it fate, working silently behind the scenes? Today, I want to tell you a story about a young man who had lost everything. And when he finally learned to trust Krishna, the impossible began to become possible. But the miracle did not happen when he stopped struggling. It happened when he stopped believing that he had to control everything. In a small village lived a young man named Aarav. Aarav was hardworking, honest, and deeply devoted to Lord Krishna. His biggest dream was simple. He wanted to build a small business so that he could support his family and give his parents a comfortable life. For years, he saved every rupee he could. He worked during the day and planned his business at night. Finally, after years of waiting, the day arrived. Aarav was ready to begin. But life had a different plan. Just a few days before he was supposed to start his business, something terrible happened. The money he had saved was suddenly lost. Everything, years of savings, gone. Aarav was devastated. He tried to find another way. He borrowed money. He approached relatives. He asked friends for help. But every door seemed to close. One person told him, forget this dream. It is impossible. Another said, be practical. Some dreams are simply not meant to happen. Slowly, Aarav began believing them. One evening, he sat alone near the temple. His eyes were filled with tears. Looking at the idol of Krishna, he whispered, Krishna, I trusted you. Why did you let this happen? There was no answer. The temple was silent. As Aarav sat there, an elderly priest approached him. The priest looked at him and asked, why are you crying? Aarav told him everything. His dream, his loss, his failures, his fear. Finally, he said, I prayed to Krishna every day. But nothing changed. The priest smiled gently. Then he said, perhaps Krishna is not asking you to stop believing. Aarav looked up. The priest continued, perhaps he is asking you to stop deciding how the miracle must happen. When a farmer plants a seed, does he dig it up every morning to check whether it is growing? Aarav shook his head. No, the priest smiled. Then why do you pray to Krishna today and demand proof tomorrow? Those words touched Aarav deeply. The priest continued, faith does not mean believing that everything will happen exactly the way you want. Faith means believing that even when you cannot see the path, Krishna can. That night, Aarav made a decision. He would not give up. But he would also stop obsessing over the result. The next morning, he prayed, Krishna, I will do my part. You take care of the path. And then, he started again. He had almost no money. But he still had his skills. So he began with whatever little he had. Every day was difficult. Some days he earned almost nothing. Some days he questioned himself. But whenever fear returned, he remembered the priest's words. Do your part. Trust the path. Weeks passed. Then months. Nothing extraordinary happened. Aarav's faith was tested again and again. One night, exhausted and frustrated, he almost decided to quit. He looked toward the small picture of Krishna beside his bed. And whispered, I don't understand your plan, but I will trust you. That sentence changed something inside him. He stopped asking, when will my miracle happen? Instead, he began asking, what can I do today? And that changed everything. One afternoon, something unusual happened. A businessman from a nearby town visited the village. He was searching for someone who could provide exactly the service Aarav had started offering. Someone recommended Aarav. The businessman visited his tiny workplace. There were no expensive machines, no luxurious office, no large team, only Aarav, his dedication, and his work. The businessman was impressed. He offered Aarav his first major contract. The payment was enough to completely change Aarav's situation. Aarav couldn't believe it. But the story didn't end there. That one opportunity introduced him to another customer. That customer introduced him to another. Slowly, his small business began growing. Within a few years, the same people who had told Aarav, your dream is impossible, were now asking him, how did you do it? Aarav always gave the same answer. I didn't know how it would happen. I only refused to stop walking. One evening, Aarav returned to the same Krishna temple where he had once cried. He sat in the same place. The same lamps were burning. But Aarav was no longer the same person. He smiled and said, Krishna, now I understand. The miracle was not simply the money. It was not the business. It was not even the success. The real miracle was that Krishna had transformed his fear into faith, his impatience into patience, his desperation into surrender. So if you are watching this video while facing something that feels impossible, please remember this. Your current situation is not your final destination. You may not see the solution today. You may not understand the delay. You may feel like every door is closing. But don't give up simply because you cannot see the next step. Take the step that is in front of you. Do what you can. Pray, work, improve, and surrender the outcome to Krishna. Because sometimes, the biggest miracle begins at the exact moment when you decide not to give up. Maybe your story is still being written. Maybe the chapter you are calling failure is actually the chapter before your breakthrough. So tonight, close your eyes and say, Krishna, I don't know how. I don't know when, but I trust you. I will do my part. You guide my path. And then, take one more step. Have faith. Keep going. Surrender the outcome. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who is going through a difficult time. And if you believe that Krishna's timing is greater than our understanding, subscribe to this channel. Radhe Radhe.